They ruined my life quietly, with smiles and signatures and whispers I was never meant to hear. So I learned how to scream without raising my voice. And when I finally spoke, the whole world listened. My name is Adrian Cole, and for a long time, I believed silence was survival. I grew up thinking that if I worked hard enough, stayed polite enough, and trusted the right people, life would eventually reward me. I believed in systems, in fairness, in loyalty. That belief cost me everything. It started with a promotion I never got. I was 32, newly married to Lena Whitmore, and working at Halstead & Rowe, a consulting firm that sold itself as a family. The kind of place where partners called you by your first name and told you to keep your head down and your future would take care of itself. My future, as it turned out, was being dismantled behind closed doors. The promotion went to Marcus Hale, my junior. Less experienced, less qualified, but Marcus laughed louder at the partners' jokes and drank with them after work. He knew how to belong. When I asked why, my manager, Victor Langley, smiled and said, "Timing, Adrian. You're solid, just not visible enough." That word followed me everywhere after that. Invisible. I tried harder. Longer hours. Weekend projects. I missed dinners. I missed birthdays. Lena supported me at first, rubbing my shoulders late at night, telling me it would be worth it. Then the strain started to show. At work, projects I led were reassigned at the last minute. My ideas appeared in meetings with someone else's name attached. When clients praised outcomes, Victor nodded at Marcus. Still, I stayed quiet, because speaking up felt dangerous. Because every time I walked past the glass-walled conference rooms, I saw Victor, Marcus, and Elaine Porter, the HR director, leaning in close, lowering their voices. And when I entered, they smiled like nothing had happened. At home, things were unraveling faster. Lena worked as a freelance interior designer. Her income was inconsistent, and my salary carried us. When bonuses didn't come, when raises stalled, the pressure became constant. "You said this year would be different," she said one night, sitting across from me at the kitchen table. Her voice wasn't angry. That was worse. "I know," I replied. "It will be." I was lying. To her. To myself. Then came a complaint. One morning, Elaine called me into her office. She didn't offer coffee. That should have been my first warning. "Adrian," she said carefully, folding her hands, "a concern has been raised about your conduct." The word hit me like a slap. My conduct. There are claims you've been creating a hostile environment, undermining colleagues, speaking disrespectfully in private. I laughed. Actually laughed. That's ridiculous. Elaine didn't smile. "We're obligated to investigate." The investigation was silent, surgical, and swift. No one asked for my side in any meaningful way. Emails were taken out of context. Casual jokes were framed as insults. Meetings I wasn't invited to were cited as proof I was withdrawn. Marcus avoided my eyes in the hallway. Victor stopped replying to my messages. 3 weeks later, I was terminated. "Not a good cultural fit," Victor said, sliding the paperwork across the table. "We wish you the best." I walked out carrying a box with my name on it, feeling like I had just been erased. The damage didn't stop there. Halstead & Rowe fought my unemployment claim. References dried up overnight. Recruiters stopped calling after background checks. Someone was talking. At home, Lena tried to be patient. But patience has a limit when bills stack up and confidence evaporates. "You're not telling me everything," she said one evening. "What really happened?" "I did nothing wrong," I said. "They set me up." She looked at me with a mix of sympathy and doubt. "Then why does no one want to touch you?" That question hurt more than the firing. The final blow came 6 months later. Lena sat me down, hands shaking. "I can't do this anymore, Adrian. I feel like I'm drowning with you." With me. She moved out 2 weeks later. Filed for separation a month after that. I lost my job, my reputation, my marriage, all without a single public accusation. No courtroom, no confrontation, just quiet decisions made by powerful people who knew silence protected them. I thought about ending everything more than once, but silence had already taken enough from me. What saved me was an email. It arrived accidentally, forwarded to me by a former coworker named Daniel Frost. We hadn't been close, but he felt guilty. "Thought you should see this," his message said. Attached was a chain of internal emails between Victor, Marcus, and Elaine. They discussed me like a problem to be managed. Victor wrote, "Adrian's too independent. Doesn't play along." Elaine replied, "We can build a case." Performance concerns. Cultural misalignment. Marcus added, "Once he's gone, the Westbrook account is clean." Clean. That account had been my biggest success. I sat there staring at the screen, hands numb, heart pounding. This wasn't incompetence or misunderstanding. It was intentional. They hadn't ruined me by accident. They had planned it. For the first time since everything collapsed, I felt something other than despair. Clarity. I started documenting everything. Old emails, performance reviews that contradicted the accusations, messages from clients praising my work. I contacted former co-workers quietly, carefully. Some refused to talk. Others, like Daniel, shared more than they realized. Patterns emerged. I wasn't the first. 2 women, 1 older analyst, all pushed out the same way. Silent complaints. Cultural fit. Reputation smothered before it could defend itself. I reached out to an investigative journalist named Rachel Moore. She specialized in corporate misconduct. At first, she was skeptical. "Companies don't fall over one disgruntled ex-employee," she said over coffee. "I'm not disgruntled," I replied. "I am documented." I slid my folder across the table. She read in silence. Then she looked up. "If this is real, it's bigger than you." "It is," I said, "and I don't want revenge." That was a lie. I wanted truth in daylight. Rachel spent months digging, interviewing, verifying. She uncovered non-disclosure payouts, forced resignations, a culture of quiet destruction. Meanwhile, Halstead and Rowe thrived publicly. Awards, LinkedIn posts about integrity and people first. Victor spoke at conferences about ethical leadership. Marcus was promoted again. I waited. Silence, I learned, could be a weapon too, if you chose when to break it. By the time Rachel's article was ready, I was no longer afraid. I had already lost everything they could take. And soon, they were going to lose something they couldn't buy back. The story was scheduled to go live on a Monday morning. At 8:01 a.m., my phone began to vibrate. Unknown numbers, emails, messages. By 8:05, Halstead and Rowe's website was down. By 8:12, Victor's keynote speech was canceled. I sat alone in my apartment, watching the world finally see what had been done to me and to so many others. They had ruined my life in silence. But this was only the beginning of what would happen when the silence ended. And I was no longer invisible. By noon, the article was everywhere. Rachel Moore's headline didn't use my name. It didn't need to. It named Halstead and Rowe and described, in brutal detail, a systematic pattern of quiet character assassinations, manufacturer complaints, and reputational blacklisting. Screenshots of emails, redacted just enough to be legal, spread across social media like wildfire. Former employees began commenting within hours. So this is what happened to me. I thought I was alone. They did the same thing, just quieter. The silence they had relied on shattered in public. My phone rang again. This time I answered. "Adrian," Victor Langley's voice said, tight and unfamiliar. "We need to talk." I laughed. I couldn't help it. "Funny. You never wanted to talk before." "This has gone too far," he snapped. "You've damaged reputations. Careers." I leaned back against the couch, staring at the ceiling. "You built those careers on lies." There was a pause. Then, softer, "What do you want?" That question was everything. "I want you to tell the truth," I said. "Publicly." He exhaled sharply. "You know that's not possible." "Then this doesn't stop." I hung up before he could respond. Within days, regulators announced an inquiry. Client suspended contract. A major investor pulled out. The firm issued a carefully worded statement about misunderstandings and ongoing reviews. No apology. No accountability. Rachel called me that evening. "You ready for what comes next?" "What's next?" I asked. "People turning on you," she said. "They'll say you're bitter, vindictive, that you orchestrated this because you failed." I smiled grimly. They've been saying that for years. Just quietly. The backlash came fast. Anonymous opinion pieces questioned my competence. A former colleague, one who had refused to talk earlier, posted a long LinkedIn rant about disgruntled employees destroying good companies. My name wasn't mentioned, but everyone knew. Then came the legal threat. A cease and desist letter arrived from Halstead and Rose attorneys, accusing me of defamation, breach of confidentiality, and coordinated reputational harm. Rachel wasn't impressed. "It's intimidation," she said. "They're panicking." Still, seeing my name wrapped in legal language made my stomach knot. I had nothing left to lose, but fear doesn't disappear just because you're brave. What steadied me were the messages. Emails from strangers. Calls from former employees I'd never met. One woman, Claire Benton, told me she'd been fired after reporting harassment. "They said I wasn't a team player," she said, voice trembling. "I thought it was my fault." Another man, Thomas Reed, admitted he'd stayed silent while they pushed out a colleague. "I needed the job," he said. "I hate myself for that." I didn't judge him. Silence, I'd learned, is contagious. Lena reached out a week later. Her name on my phone made my heart stop. "Hi," she said softly when I answered. "I saw the article." "Yeah," I replied. "I figured you would." There was a pause. "I'm sorry," she said. "I didn't believe you." Not fully. I closed my eyes. That apology hit deeper than the firing ever had. "I should have stood by you," she continued. "They made you look crazy, unreliable, and I let that shape how I saw you." "They're very good at that," I said quietly. We talked for an hour. About everything. About nothing. It didn't fix what had broken between us, but it healed something inside me. For the first time, someone who mattered saw the truth. 2 weeks later, the firm collapsed. Not all at once. Slowly. Painfully. Elaine Porter resigned to spend time with family. Marcus Hale was placed on administrative leave pending investigation. Victor Langley disappeared from public view entirely. When the internal report leaked, it confirmed everything. Fabricated complaints. Coordinated documentation. HR weaponized against employees who didn't conform. The phrase that stuck with me was buried on page 47. Silence was leveraged as a strategic asset. I read it 3 times. That was it. That was the weapon. Rachel published a follow-up, then a third piece. National outlets picked it up. Podcast called. Panels invited me to speak. The man who had once been invisible was now unavoidable. Standing on a stage months later, under bright lights, I looked out at a crowd of strangers and told them what silence had cost me. My life didn't fall apart in public, I said into the microphone. It was dismantled quietly, politely, with paperwork and smiles. And that's why it worked. I talked about fear, about complicity, about how systems protect themselves by isolating their victims. When I finished, the applause wasn't loud at first. Then it grew. People stood. I didn't feel victorious. I felt free. After the talk, a young man approached me. "I'm in a place like that," he said. "They're doing it to me right now." I handed him my card. "You're not alone," I said. "And you're not crazy." That mattered more than any headline. Months passed. Life rebuilt itself in unfamiliar ways. I consulted for companies that actually wanted change. I worked with advocacy groups pushing for whistleblower protections. I slept better. One afternoon, Rachel and I met again for coffee. "You know," she said, stirring her cup, "they'll never forgive you." "I don't need them to," I replied. She smiled. "You didn't just expose them. You changed the script." That night, alone in my apartment, I thought back to the man carrying a cardboard box out of a glass building, wondering what he'd done wrong. I wished I could tell him this. You weren't weak for staying silent, but you were powerful the moment you chose not to anymore. They ruined my life in silence. I destroyed their lies in public. And in doing so, I finally got my life back. You just heard a story of betrayal, survival, and quiet revenge. If it left you thinking, hit like, share it forward, and subscribe for more true emotional stories that'll stay with you long after they end. Every click helps another story find its voice.